So as we dive into this miracle in chapter 17, let's start in verse 11. And it came to pass, as he went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. Just geographically speaking, if you look at the lay of the land here, here's Jerusalem, the capital city, here's Capernaum, and all of these villages that are largely Jewish up in the Galilee. The tradition, the long-standing tradition is that they would have taken the longer route down into the Jordan River Valley to Jericho and then up the steep mountain up to Jerusalem, which takes a lot longer, 6, 7, 8 days, depending on the weather and the traveling conditions. And there are a couple of times where you see this direct route through Samaria that Jesus is taking. He did it back in John chapter 4. He's now doing it here in Luke chapter 11. The idea being, Jesus isn't afraid of those cultural norms if they existed widespread and nobody ever wanted to come this route, because Jesus is doing it a few times. And in this case, as we're coming through Samaria, it says in verse 12, as he entered into a certain village, there met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off. They're being good citizens, because lepers aren't supposed to come into the villages. They're supposed to stay away, stay apart. So verse 13, and they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. And when he saw them, he said unto them, go, show yourselves unto the priests. Pause right there. If you're one of the 10 lepers and you've just shouted to him, you recognize who it is, because Jesus has been through Samaria before. He's performed miracles. We know the name Jesus means something to these people in this community. And so they've asked him to be healed, and he says, go, show yourself to the priest. That could be a little problematic, because we're still leprous. Look at the next line. It says, as they went, they were cleansed. So it wasn't a, you're healed, now go see the priest. It was, they had to turn and take steps of faith to head to the priest when everything in their culture and society said, don't you dare go near the priest. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back and with a loud voice glorified God. I love this. There were 10 who were cleansed. If you look at that word at the bottom of verse 14, 10 lepers walked away this day cleansed. They're no longer ritually unclean. And one of them seems to experience more than just the cleansing. He's now glorifying God, and he fell down on his face at his feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. Luke is reminding you yet again, in case if you forgot from verse 11, this guy's a Samaritan. But now he's okay to come up to Jesus and his apostles and those traveling with them because he's cleansed. But he's still a Samaritan. He's still an outsider as far as the Jews are concerned. And Jesus' response in verse 17 is, were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? There are not found that returned to give glory to God, save this stranger. And he said unto him, arise, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. Notice the difference between verse 14 and verse 19. 10 lepers were cleansed, but one leper was made whole, complete. The miracle is now complete. And there are 9 of them who, for whatever reason, and we can't blame them. We're not here pointing fingers of scorn at the 9. We're here to celebrate with the one who came back and recognized, wow, what a privilege. I have a new life now. And he comes back and glorifies God. To me, this is a powerful example of never moving forward too far without acknowledging what was done. You'll notice human tendency. We all experience this to one degree or another, where you're in a moment of need and you desperately call out for help. And often when that help comes, we're like, whew, good, I got the help I needed, and we move on. I love this guy because he reminds me that I should probably put just as much energy into my gratitude and meekness and humility in going back to glorify God for these blessings that I received as I did when I was pleading for the blessing to be given. It's just a beautiful concept that I learned from this unnamed Samaritan leper who was made whole.